What if I told you that some of the world's best oysters begin their journey as something smaller than a button in the northern hemisphere? In Alaska, oyster farming isn't about finding the biggest pearl in the sea. It's about raising tiny oyster seed into premium shellfish. Tasty was invited by the Alaska Mariculture Alliance to Ketchikan, Alaska to visit local oyster farms and see how this growing industry thrives in Alaska's cold coastal waters. Even though Alaska is famous for its seafood, Pacific oysters aren't native here. It all starts with oyster seed produced at specialized hatcheries in Hawaii and Southern California. The seed is only about 3 millimeters wide before it's carefully shipped to Alaska. One of the first stops is a nursery, like the one at Blue Star Oyster Company. Here, millions of baby oysters spend their first months growing in a floating system called a flupsy, which constantly pumps nutrient-rich seawater through them to help them grow. And once they're big enough, they're sold to farms throughout Alaska. From there, the oysters move to local farms like Seagrove and Hump Island Oyster Company. Each farm uses slightly different techniques, but they all share the same goal: producing healthy, delicious oysters. As the oysters get larger, they're sorted by size and transferred into floating baskets or cages. At Blue Star, for example, they're grown using a New Zealand design system called Flip Farm. Durable floating baskets are periodically flipped by farmers, exposing the oysters to air and mimicking the natural conditions of a wild oyster reef. This cleans the shell and strengthens the oyster's adductor muscles. It also encourages them to grow into deep-cupped, well-formed oysters, which increases their shelf life and it makes them easier to shuck. At Seagrove, oyster grow cages gently tumble the oysters with the movement of water, helping create clean shells, deep cups, and plump meat. Hump Island takes a similar approach, tumbling and sorting its oysters regularly over the course of nearly 3 years, allowing the shells to form uniformly while developing the qualities oyster lovers look for. And this process takes time. The oysters you eat in just a few seconds take 2 to 3 years to reach your plate. During that time, Alaska's pristine waters do almost all the work. Oysters naturally filter microscopic plankton from the water, so they don't need feed, fertilizers, or even fresh water. That makes them one of the most sustainable forms of aquaculture. The cold water also gives Alaska oysters a unique advantage. Because the water stays cold year-round, the oysters spend almost no time spawning and put all of that energy into growing instead. Once they reach market size, each oyster is harvested by hand, inspected, cleaned, and rapidly chilled to preserve freshness while meeting strict food safety standards. From there, they're packed on ice and shipped to seafood distributors, restaurants, and markets, often arriving in just days after leaving the farm. So the next time you eat an oyster, remember it's more than just one bite. It's a result of years of growth, careful farming, and the unique waters that shaped its flavor.